I hope you're able to hear me. Prime Minister, ministers, federal member state leaders, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to the Somali authorities for hosting this meeting. It has been a busy week of active engagement by the Somali leadership, including a high-level security meeting on Monday, the Security and Justice Committee meeting held for the first time in 2.5 years on Tuesday, the Peace Building Commission held for the first time in 5 years on Wednesday, and now the Somalia Partnership Forum, the apex coordination event between the government and partners. We are honored to be here as your partners. I want to thank the government for convening. I want to thank all those who have been involved in preparing the mutual accountability documents, but more importantly, those who have been responsible for achieving results. And finally, I want to thank the partners for being here to participate in this meeting that was organized on a quite accelerated timeline. Ladies and gentlemen, with regard to the inclusive politics agenda item, I want to stress the centrality of inclusive politics to our efforts collectively to achieve progress in all areas, and that includes on security and justice, and it includes on development, because it is essential that there be recognized national institutions with the credibility and the legitimacy to speak for the Somali people as they lead the security and development processes as well. But my remarks are going to focus primarily on the inclusive politics agenda. First of all, in regard to elections, as the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister noted, one person, one vote elections regrettably did not take place in 2020. Due to delays in preparation and, more importantly, perhaps difficulty in ensuring a political agreement. So we've been very pleased as partners to support the September 17th agreement that was forged between the federal leadership and federal member state leaders. Even while disappointed, it did not make more progress toward one person, one vote. We are concerned, however, that that spirit of consensus and dialogue that led to the September 17th agreement appears to be diminishing. We don't want to see the September agreement reopened, but we do think it is important that in its implementation, that there also be clear continuation of that spirit of dialogue and compromise. And to that end, we believe it would be useful for the federal leadership and federal member state leaders to continue to discuss details of implementation of the September 17th agreement. The UN family has supported electoral preparations through the Integrated Elections Support Group, and through our collaboration with the Elections Security Task Force, and we will continue to do that. One final point on elections is we remain concerned that the 30% women's participation quota agreed in the law and agreed in the September 17th Accord, that should be respected. And we are concerned that the existing election management bodies have not yet met that benchmark. Secondly, in regard to the constitutional review process, progress was made at a technical level. And again, the UN was proud with substantial donor support to contribute to the work of the two committees and the Ministry of Constitutional Affairs working on constitutional reform. We believe it's very important that the progress achieved on the non-contentious issues be secured prior to the end of this Parliament so that it is not necessary to start over again. This too will require a dialogue between the federal leadership and the federal member states. We hope that can proceed quickly. It will also be important to include women, civil society organizations, and other groups that have in the past been excluded. But constitutional reform remains a critical priority. We'd like to see more progress. I want to speak briefly about the efforts against Al-Shabaab in the context of inclusive politics also. There will be a session later today on security, but we recognize that in addition to the hard security efforts, it continues to be important to work on institution building and improved governance, including at the local level, as a way to blunt and diminish Al-Shabaab's appeal. In that regard, we were very pleased to see the meeting of the Security and Justice Committee earlier this week as a vehicle for coordinating both the hard and the softer sides of anti-Al-Shabaab measures. I want to commend the progress that was made in bringing the federal government and all federal member states together to discuss the electoral process. We think it's important for that dialogue to be institutionalized. We also think it's important that there be a move toward agreement on other democratic institutions, including the Independent Human Rights Commission, the Judicial Services Commission, eventually the Constitutional Court, but urge that this be done in a consensual and consultative manner. So to summarize, Prime Minister, in the coming year, we look forward to improved and sustained cooperation between the federal government and federal member state leaders, and to this end would encourage another meeting urgently to address remaining electoral questions and other issues. Secondly, we'd like to see a practical roadmap with clear benchmarks to get to one person, one vote elections in the next electoral cycle. Third, we'd like to see in the next year completion of the constitutional review process, including locking in non-confrontational, non-contentious issues even before the current Parliament concludes. We'd like to see further work on establishing democratic institutions in the fields of justice and human rights, and we hope that there can be further participation by civil society organizations to broaden discussion of all of these issues. Once again, Prime Minister, I just want to stress the centrality of inclusive politics and broad-based institution building to other objectives. We want to see Somalis lead on all of these issues, but to do so, it's important that there be credible governing institutions that clearly have the support of the people and are accepted. It is also going to be important for partners going forward that progress made on inclusive politics over the last decade is continued and deepened, and this will help ensure stronger partner support going forward across all segments of our engagement in Somalia. As we look ahead, the coming year will need to be shaped by clear vision, strong political engagement, a spirit of dialogue, compromise, broad consensus, and mutual accountability. And we are very pleased, Prime Minister, with this meeting of the Somalia Partnership Forum, which we believe will guide these efforts in the coming year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador James Swan. In addition to that, I would like to add I'm planning to trip to Garowe, Puntland, Galkayo, and Samareb in Galmudug early of the next week, inshallah. And also we are planning to have a meeting in Mogadishu, all federal member states, as soon as after I come back from Puntland and Somaliland. Thank you again. Now, I would like to welcome to the floor President Saeed Abdullahi Deni of Puntland State of Somalia. Welcome.
Greetings, Your Excellence, Prime Minister, Excellence, Presidents of the Federal Member State, Ministers, Ambassadors, other government officials, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm honored to be present in this inspiring gathering we call the Somali Partnership Forum. After very trying and demanding year for all those around the world, there has never been a better time to meet together as one. This forum is a platform where we can collaborate closely, reflect, and celebrate the achievement made thus far, as well as address the major challenges facing the Somali people. Since I came to office, Puntland has achieved much in short time. We have focused on building the institutional capacity of governmental agencies in order to enhance public service delivery. We have also engaged in structural reforms, such as in the security and justice sector, as well as improving the capacity of all our civil servants. These developments are in line with our efforts to continuously strengthen our public financial management system in all areas, so that government can be relied upon as a transparent, accountability service provider for all citizens. No challenge has seemed greater in recent time than the COVID-19 crisis, which has affected millions around the globe. Puntland has experienced multiple setbacks, such as pandemic, natural disasters, and locust invasion, all at the same time. The public health measures that have been put in place in Puntland in order to contain COVID-19 spread, such as social distancing and temporary shutdown of businesses, has dramatically weakened the economy. The increase in the state inflation rate is an example of the worsening economic situation. The ongoing locust invasion has threatened to completely obliterate the already fragile food security system, destroying crops and pastures. Having tackled previous flooding, which have severely damaged the infrastructure of towns, we are now in the midst of another humanitarian crisis. The cyclone Gati, which has caused fatalities and casualties, destruction of road and livelihood in Bari, Karkar, and Gardafour region. Among other key challenges is managing the process of inclusive elections. This process was initially designed based on universal suffrage, one person, one vote, electoral model for the 2020-2021 Somali elections. However, due to circumstances, it was agreed that the most appropriate and alternative electoral model should be conducted in the form of indirect election. These general election principles were discussed and agreed upon by FGS and FMS leaders at the Political Consultative Conference in Samareb 1, 2, 3, and later in Mogadishu Consultative Meeting. In all of these consultative meetings mentioned, all stakeholders agree upon an electoral model based on a specific process and procedure, as well as identifying the location in which the election will be held. The political agreement has been an important and encouraging step toward a more unified approach. But make no mistake, agreements on the technical principles of election must go hand in hand with preserving the integrity of electoral process as whole, such as upholding political inclusivity, widening access to political participation, maintaining transparency and independence, and finally, safeguarding the electoral process from any kind of interference and unnecessary infringement. Your Excellencies, to build on from the progress made in Samareb in 1 and 2 and 3 and Mogadishu, these electoral values and principles must be endorsed and upheld as a priority from the upcoming election. In light of this, I would like to draw your attention to this following number of pressing concerns. Firstly, some of election management committee members do not meet the selection minimum agreed criteria, which worries some Somali political stakeholders. Secondly, in the agreement reached between federal governments of Somalia and federal member states, Somaliland Electoral Committee members were to be selected based on consultation process by all Somaliland political stakeholders, while fully engaging with the Upper House Speaker, Honorable Abdi Hashi, in the process. Nevertheless, this agreement was not fulfilled. Finally, as we all know, Gede region is a part of Jubaland state. Therefore, Jubaland has the full legal authority to manage the election that will take place in Garbahari district without any political and military intrusion, as in the case in all other federal member state election locations. Indeed, this concerns both significant barrier to holding fair and free election. And I would like to put forward the following recommendations as a way forward. In order to hold timely election, it's imperative that we, federal member states and federal government Somali leaders, meet as soon as possible to address these mentioning concerns and speed up the electoral process. Second, the Somaliland Election Committee membership should be reviewed in line with the consensus of the key political Somaliland leaders, including the Upper House Speaker, Honorable Abdi Hash. Federal government Somalia should withdraw its military presence from the Garbahari district in order for the Jubaland state to hold elections in credible and transparent manner. Electoral Management Committee members should be confirmed only once they have met the agreed minimum electoral membership criteria, which is clearly stated in the agreed electoral procedure for 2020-2021. Your Excellencies, after having laid out Puntland's key concern and recommendations for holding free and fair election, I would like to conclude my speech with few important issues regarding matters relating to resource sharing and discussion relating to the constitutional review process. Puntland government welcome the notion that the natural resources of Somalia nation are explored and benefited from by following a legal agreement that clearly define matrix of ownership, administration, and resource sharing model to prevent disputes or conflicts that arise in relation to resource exploration. However, Puntland is concerned regarding the recent decision made by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources on the issuance of Puntland exploration licenses, petroleum licenses, without an agreed legal framework. Puntland views this as a rash decision which does not serve the interest of Somali people. Regarding the constitutional review process, Puntland government declared that up to now, state delegates who are selected to be members of the Independent Constitutional Review and Implementation Committee have not been allowed to join this committee. This clear violation of the constitutional article 134, clause 2 of provisional federal constitution. Due to this election time, it is not possible to negotiate the politically contentious articles, which included power and resource sharing, capital status, judiciary, and electoral model and physical federalism. We reiterate to all stakeholders to postpone the constitutional review process until after election process has been completed in order to provide sufficient time and full consultation. Your Excellencies, I extended my sincere thanks to the international community for their continued and unwavering support in Somalia endeavor to tackle its biggest obstacles in the developing a fair, free, and stable society. 2 years ago, when I began my search for President of Puntland, I believed that we will reach a united and consultative decision-making model which include the voices, concerns, and experience of all corners of Somali political spectrum. This vision remains a hope till now, and I'm confident we will reach this in the very near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, President Saeed Abdullahi Deni, President of Puntland State. Just a little bit correction. We will have meeting the federal member states and the federal government of Somalia after my trip to Garowe and Somalia, inshallah. So now I would like to welcome on the floor the President of the Galmudug State, Ahmed Abdi Kariye. Please, welcome.
مدن رئيس الوزراء madaxweynayaasha dowladaha xubnaha ka dowladda federaalka wakiilka u qaabilsan arrimaha Soomaaliya qaramada midoobay wasiirada dowladda federaalka ee Soomaaliya safiirada beesha caalamka iyo dhammaan ka soo qaybgalayaasha madashan waxaan leeyahay maalin wanaagsan mudanayaal iyo marweyn salaan kadib mudan ra'iisul wasaare mudanayaal iyo marweyn waxay noo tahay madashani fursad aad iyo aad muhiim u ah ummadda Soomaaliyeed ay ku soo bandhigto ama looga faa'iideysto jaanisyadan muhiimka ah ama howlaha hor yaalla waxaan rabnaa inaan uga hadalno arrimaha hortebinta leh ee muhiimka ah. galmudug mudanayaal iyo marweyn waxay soo martay wakhtigii koobnaa xaalado kala duwan iyada oo dowladda iyo shacabka reer galmudug oo iskaashanaya ay la yimaadeen dadaal runtii aad iyo aad u fara badan oo arrimaha dhexdoodana tallaabooyin horumar leh hore loo qaaday oo wakhti kooban lagu gaaray kadibna dowladda iyo dadka reer galmudug ay isu taageen arrimaha Soomaaliya gaar ahaan arrimaha doorashooyinka 2021 taasoo runtii muhiimad gaara lahayd kuna soo aaday waqti baahi badan ay Soomaaliya u qabtay in arrimaha doorashooyinka laga gaaro heshiis. dowladda iyo dadka reer galmudug waxay ka geysteen gacan lama ilaawaan ah iyadoo la soo maray heshiiskii ama heshiisyadii dhusumareeb 1, 2 iyo 3 oo ay ka soo baxeen go'aamadii dhaxalgalka ahaa ee horseeday ama lagu gaaray heshiiska doorashada 2020-2021. waxaan rabaa halkaan inaan uga mahad celiyo dadka reer galmudug kaalintii ay qaateen iyo dadaalkii ay bixiyeen iyo guushii ay Soomaali horseedeen inaan idhaahdo aad iyo aad baa Soomaali dhan idinkaga mahad celisay idinkagana mahad celinaya. arrimaha doorashada sida la wada og yahay arrimaha doorashada sidaan hore u sheegnay dadaalkii la soo bixiyey mirihii ka soo baxay waxay noqdeen in heshiis doorasho lagu gaaray 17 September ugu dambeyn dhusumareeb 1, 2 iyo 3 iyo tii gabagabadii oo Muqdisho ka dhacday. arrimaha doorashooyinka galmudug waxay ku shaqaynaysaa u taagan tahay in la dhowro la hirgeliyo lagu shaqeeyo doorashadana ku dhacdo heshiiskii doorasho ee la gaaray. sida caadiga ahayd Soomaalida dhaqan wanaagsan waxa ahayd in 4 sanaba mar la galo doorasho waqtigeedii ku dhacda xor ah xalaal ah marba ku timaada sidii laga badi waayo ama sidii lagu heshiiyey. heshiiska doorashada waxaan ku faraxsannahay in lagu dhaqaaqay fulintii heshiiska iyo gelintii doorashada. way ka yimaadeen cabashooyin waa jiraan iyo tabashooyin ka jira dhaqaaqa koowaad ama tallaabta doorashada. galmudug waxay qabtaa ku shaqaynaysaa caddaynaysaa in la dhowro lagu shaqeeyo heshiiskii. ma jiro dhinac la dhaafay ama dhinac heshiiska ka maqan ama dhinac heshiiska qabyo wax uga jiraan. wixii heshiiska ka baxsan waxay galmudug qabtaa in lagu shaqeeyo in la isturxaan bixiyo la iska qanciyo heshiiska gudihiisana la isku qanciyo. waxaa galmudug ka go'an inay mar labaad door shariifa ka geysato habsami u socodka doorashooyinka iyo hirgelinta heshiiskii doorashada iyo turxaan bixinta iyo iska qancinta tabashooyinka jira. sida caadiga u ahayd dadaalkaas waa ku jirnaa waana runtii waajibaadna saaran horena aan qaybtiisii hore uga soo qayb qaadanay nala wada saaran. waxaan rabaa inaan dhinacyada oo dhan iraahdo oon ka codsado in laga fogaado wax walba oo heshiiska ama doorashada caqabad ku keeni kara, inay doorashada aan taabagelinteeda iyo habsami socodkeeda iyo hufnaanteeda ka wada shaqayno. waa ballan qaadaynaa, waana ku dhaqmaynaa, waana ku shaqaynaynaa inuu heshiiskii doorashadu ku dhacdo, tabashooyinkana la iska qanciyo. sidoo kale dhammaan oo ay ka mid tahay kootada dumarka iyo ka qayb qaadashada siyaasadda loo dhan yahay. dhammaan mar labaad iyo mar saddexaad waxaan ku celinayaa tabashooyinka oo dhan inaan ku xallisanno heshiiska gudihiisa, iskuna qancino, la iskuna qaato, la iskuna tanasulo arrimaha doorashooyinku inay si guul ku dhammaadaan. intaa markaan doorashada uga baxo, arrimaha amniga, mudanayaal iyo marweyn, waxaad og tihiin muddooyinkan dambe inay galmudug weeraro ku hayeen kooxaha argagixisada ah meelo ka mida galmudug. runtii galmudug waxay isugu tagtay in ay ka hor istaagto isku day kasta oo argagixisadu ay ku soo qaadaan deegaanada galmudug iyo deegaano kale oo aan galmudug hayn si aanay ugu gudbin dhibaatadooda. muddadii ugu dambeysay waxaad la socotaan deegaanka Bacaad weyn inay weerar ku soo qaadeen argagixisadu, kaas oo ay ka hortageen ciidamada amniga iyo bulshada reer Bacaad weyne oo iskaashanaya. runtiina ay halkaa lagu geystay jab weyn. anigoo halkaa uga mahad celinaya ciidamada amniga, haddana waxaan rabaa inaan si gaara ugu mahad celiyo bulshada reer Bacaad weyn oo door taariikhi ka geystay la dagaalanka argagixisada. weerarada guuldaraystay waa badan yihiin oo argagixisadu ay soo qaadeen. waxaa ugu dambeeyeysa Bacaad weyn. waxaan ka rajaynayaa dowladda Soomaaliya iyo beesha caalamka inay galmudug gacan ka siiyaan sidii looga xoray lahaa deegaanada ay galmudug kaga sugan yihiin argagixisada. gacan dhinacyo badan leh oo weliba taxadir gaara leh, sida in laga kaalmeeyo dhaqaalaha, farsamada iyo dhammaan howlaha fududeynaya la dagaalanka argagixisada. ra'iisul wasaare mudanayaal iyo marweyn, waxaan dadaal ugu jirtaa galmudug sidii guud ahaan la isaga xoray lahaa argagixisada, gaar ahaanna looga xoray lahaa galmudug. garabka iyo gacanta ay u baahan tahayna way rajeynaysaa inay ka hesho dhinacyada oo dhan. mudan ra'iisul wasaare mudanayaal iyo marweyn arrimaha dhaqaalaha runtii galmudug waxaa ku jirtay ama ay la timid qaab iyo hannaan dhaqaale oo hufan oo dhinacyo badan runtii laga ka horumarsan ama laga hagaajiyey oo hay-adaha maaliyaddu ay runtii ka gaareen guulo waaweyn waxaa dhibaato ba'an runtii ku hayay muddooyinkan dambe iyadoo ay jirtay mushkiladii cudurkan adduunka ku habsaday COVID-19 haddana waxaa ugu darsamay oo deegaanada dhibaato fara badan ku haya ayax oo runtii keenay dhibaatooyin waaweyn geystay oo naafeeyey dhulbeereedkii daaqii welina dhibaatadiisii ay socoto oo aad iyo aad lixaad weyn si lixaad looga jirto deegaanada galmudug runtii horumarka iyo dadaalka caqabadaha ku yimid dhinaca maaliyadda waxaa weeye cudurkan COVID-19 oo saameyn badan ku leh adduunka ku yeeshay galmudugna si weyn ugu leh oo meelo badan ka curyaamiyey iyo ayaxa sida kale kaabayaasha dhaqaalaha oo howlahooda dardar ay ku socdaan oo haddaba ay bilowya fiican jiraan iyo systemka runtii aad iyo aad loo horumariyey waxay keentay in guulo la taaban karo laga gaaro arrimaha dhaqaalaha waxaan rabaa in soo kabashada iyo guulaha arrimaha dhaqaalaha si gaar ah iyo adkeynta hay-adaha dhaqaalaha annagoo runtii meel fiican ka soo gaarnay gacanta ku habboonana laka siiyo dhammaan waxaan rabaa inaan uga dardaarmo dhinacyada oo dhan in aad iyo aad waktiga kala guurka loo taxgeliyo doorashada la dhowro wax walba oo keeni kara in lagu kala duwanaadana aan ku xallisano isu tanasul iyo dhowrista heshiiskii la gaaray saaxiibadeenna beesha caalamkana ay gacan ugu siiyaan hirgelinta heshiiskii doorashada ku dhacdo sidii horeyba ay gacan nooga siin jireen arrimaha doorashooyinka iyo guud ahaan arrimaha soomaaliya mar labaad iyo mar saddexaad ra-iisul wasaare mudanayaal iyo marweyn waxaan ka mahad celinayaa madasha kasoo qaybgalka iyo doodaha lagu soo bandhigay iyo sida loogu cabiray danaha iyo maslaxada madashan muhiimka u ah aad iyo aad baad umahadsan tihiin asalaamu calaykum waraxmatullahi wabarakaatu
aad iyo aad ayaad u mahadsan tahay madaxweyne axmed cabdi kaariye galmudug state of somalia thank you president ahmed cabdi kaariye so I would like now to welcome to the floor Mr. Salah Ahmed Jama, Minister of Constitutional Affairs of Federal Government of Somalia.
Mr. Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Presidents from the regions, colleagues and the ministries, ambassadors and partners from the international community, greetings to you all. I think this SPF is unlike the last one. We are operating in an era of COVID, And we are also trying to finalize all our program in one day. So I would like to be very precise and concise in that front. Indeed, the Prime Minister and also the President and Ambassador James Swan have alluded to the centrality of inclusive politics in our effort to rebuild the Somali state. In my remarks, I would like to highlight that we as the federal government do see inclusive politics at the center of everything we do, whether it is trying to attain the Sustainable Development Goals of 2030 or to resolve the insecurities that our citizens are subjected to from Ba'adwain to any other region, or lack of services in many parts of Somalia. Those are symptoms and manifestation of political issues that need to be resolved. And I think the most important aspect of inclusive politics is the Constitution, so I will start with that. And I would like to begin by saying that if we are going to talk about inclusive politics, we must talk about the institutionalization of inclusive politics, starting with the constitutional review process. At the federal level, there are 3 mandatory institutions that regularly and rigorously work on the finalization of the constitutional review process. That is the Independent Commission, the Oversight Committee of the Parliament, and the Line Ministry. In the last 1 year, we have visited about 3 federal member states on more than 2 different occasions. In the last 2 months, we have visited Baydhabo, Chowher, and Galmudug to both consult with the different government institutions, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, and also the intellectuals and the civil society, as we get to the final stage of finalizing the technical aspects of the constitutional review process. As you all know, the constitutional review process is consisting of a technical process where we resolve technical issues, non-contentious issues, and deliberation on contentious issues, and public outreach. On the 2 fronts of technical issues and non-contentious issues and public outreach, we have recorded significant gains. And we are glad to report that at a technical level, both the 3 institutions agree that it has been finalized. What remains for the constitutional review process is decisions that are to be taken on a set of issues that are not more than 10. Most fundamentally, starting with Article 54, which talks about power sharing between the federal government and the federal member states. In the absence of agreement on that, all other interim ad hoc arrangements, such as the basis on which the electoral model was agreed upon, are only temporary in nature, and they cannot be institutionalized. So at this current moment, we are at a stage where we have been sitting with both the speakers of the upper house and the house of the people, and we will be sitting down with the ad hoc committees to allow the parliament to take stock of and safeguard the technical achievements that have been made, and we remain committed to resolving the political contentious issues provided that the federal member states show enough appetite for this process. As you all know, some of them have, as some of them have alluded to here, they prefer postponing these contentious issues to a later mandate. So the Constitution is not something that the federal government can just push on its own and go on. It is going to be a product of political deliberations and negotiations, and hopefully those things can be achieved in the coming year. I would like to leave my remarks about the Constitution to that and perhaps talk about the elections in a very brief manner. The electoral process can be divided into 3 different phases: the negotiation on the political settlement, the legality of that process, and the implementation. I'm not going to dwell on the great deal of efforts that have been invested in Dusa Marreb on 3 different occasions and Mogadishu. What was agreed upon there is a political settlement in which a very limited number of actors agree on how elections are going to be held. That has been taken to the parliament, and the parliament in a joint session has endorsed that process. Of course, for the champions of democracy in Somalia and those that want to advance democratic credentials, it is not the best of outcomes, because many would think that we are having a deja vu moment of 2016 with some minor improvements. So while it might not be meeting the ideal credentials of a one-person, one-vote scenario, it does meet an important criteria in contemporary Somali politics, which is the need to reach decisions on a consensus basis. So we went for consensus over advancement of participation and democratic process. Currently, we are at a stage where a political settlement has been reached, a legal endorsement has been provided by the parliament. Hello? Yeah. We have an election implementation bodies, the feet and the seats. So at the federal level, that body has been formed, and they have elected their leadership, they're undergoing training, and they're preparing themselves to hold the elections and work on key aspects of the implementation phase, including ensuring the 30% quota for women. At the state level, about finalized. I think we are at a stage now where we are getting into implementation phase, and the remaining any technical contentious issues can be resolved through political dialogue. That's where elections stand. On the federalism front, we have our election in Hirshabelle. There are reconciliation processes happening in Beledweyne and other cities. The Minister of Interior is now in Beledweyne attending to processes down there. So that would be my remarks for now.
Thank you, Minister Salah Ahmed Jama. Now, I would like to welcome on the floor Ms. Hanifa Mohammed Ibrahim, Minister of Women and Human Rights Development.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Your Excellency, Prime Minister, and Deputy Prime Minister, Ministers, State Presidents, Ambassadors, partners, and colleagues. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good morning to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be here at the Somali Partnership Forum as the Minister of Women and Human Rights Development, a ministry with an important mandate to advance gender equality, women empowerment, the promotion and protection of human rights in Somalia. In the mutual accountability framework and the partnership principles, the ministry has ensured that human rights and gender equality are the heart of these frameworks. I would like to stress that the protection of human rights and gender equality is the core and foundation of the 2021 Maha accountability framework. Is it okay now? I'm sorry, I had some technical problem. I'm honored to be here at the Somali Partnership Forum as the Minister of Women and Human Rights Development, a ministry with an important mandate to advance gender equality, women empowerment, the promotion and protection of human rights in Somalia. The mutual accountability framework and the partnership principles the ministry has ensured that human rights and gender equality are the heart of these frameworks. I would like to stress that the protection is very important that women candidates get the space to freely campaign, participate in the entire electoral process. We didn't reach 30% in 2012, we didn't reach in 30% quota in 2016. So I really hope that we all work hard to ensure that we reach this important benchmark. In the past weeks, I have visited several federal member states to advocate and campaign for 30% women quota. Only with women as a part of the Somali leadership and governance, we can rebuild Somalia and make it stronger for the future. The demand is